All righty. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very early edition of We the People. Today, we are having a someone that is very essential to today's society, and that is a teacher. And we know some of the struggles that teachers are going through. Actually, our guest is more than a teacher, and she will give you a little bit more details into her background. But let's bring her up on stage right now. Dr. Uh, Emily, is it Levy or Levy?
It's Levy. Thank you for
Levy.
asking.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, yes. It's a little earlier for us out here on the West Coast, but I thought that the subject that we're talking about was very essential, so I didn't mind starting the program a little early today. Uh, Tell me, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in this particular subject?
Absolutely. Well, I'm currently the founder and director of EBL Coaching, which is a one on one tutoring program for students who have specialized learning needs. Based in New York City and New Jersey, and we also do virtual tutoring worldwide. Just to date back, though, I actually grew up in the field of special education. My mother was the founder of a school for students with learning disabilities down in Florida, which is where I grew up. So I really spent so much of my childhood working at her school, working with kids, observing kids, and seeing what a difference the right methodologies could be in the lives of these children. Fast forward, though, I went to Brown University for my undergraduate degree. I then received my master's degree in special education and my doctorate degree in education. I personally started out tutoring students myself one on one who had different types of learning disabilities, ADHD, autism, and so forth, and then eventually formed DBL Coaching, where we now have a wonderful team of learning specialists who specialize in providing this type of one on one instruction.
So now, what was the spark that led you to founding was it EBL?
Sure. I think the spark was really dating back to my childhood and watching the transformation of these children who came to my mother's school struggling, low self esteem, low confidence, high anxiety, struggling academically, and then literally seeing their lives turn around when they received the right support with the right research based techniques. It was just so rewarding, and it ultimately prompted me down the road to want to go into this field for my own career.
So, so how did your academic journey from Brown to your doctoral research shape your unique teaching approach?
Sure. Well, when I did my doctorate degree, part of my dissertation was using a multisensory approach to help students with learning disabilities develop their writing skills. In addition to that, I had so much background and practice using this kind of multisensory approach to help students myself, and I saw how impactful it was. So that really became the foundation of EBL coaching, where we use all research based multisensory techniques that are very much catered to the needs of each student. And it's just been incredibly effective using this kind of approach.
So, uh, you've well, let's see, you've done extensive work with students with dyslexia, ADHD. What misconceptions still surround these learners?
That's a great question. And I think there is a large misconception that when someone has a learning disability like dyslexia or they have ADHD, that they're not smart. And the reality is that many of these individuals, I would say actually the majority, have very high IQs. They're very bright, they're very capable of excelling in life, but what they struggle with is either academic or attentional by nature, a combination thereof. But again, they're usually very smart and have incredible potential to be successful in life.
Now, is this why you prefer the one-on-one teaching method rather than a group setting?
I have found that one-on-one is most effective. It allows us to really custom tailor the instruction to the needs of each student, both initially and along the way. As we get to know them, we're able to tweak the instruction based on how they respond. That's not to say it's not possible to do that in a group setting. Of course, not everyone has access to one-on-one, but in an ideal scenario, I have found one-on-one to be most effective.
Uh, let's talk a bit about the parents. How do you get the parents? A lot of times uh, they also are subject to ridicule or harassment. How do you get the parents to actually sit down and talk to you in a one-on-one setting to assess their child's needs for your program?
Sure. Well, I think that for a long time, there was sort of a negative stigma attached to having a diagnosis like dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, what have you. I think that's really changed a lot over the years. There's so many resources now. There are methods that are available for students that could really help them so much both in and out of school. But a lot of times you sort of need that diagnosis in order to get access to those resources. So when I speak to parents, I tell them it's like giving your child a gift. By getting this evaluation done and getting this evaluation, you open up a whole new door of resources and opportunities to your child to help them excel and succeed in school that they may not otherwise have access to.
So, when you began designing this multisensory program, what gaps in the educational system were you trying to fill?
Well, when I first started the tutoring program, I found that I was struggling to find materials and resources that not only taught students how to perform certain skills, whether it was writing a sentence, writing a paragraph, reading certain words, but gave them enough practice in order to develop mastery within each of those sub skills. And that was kind of the impetus for creating the workbooks and the materials that I have, was really because I couldn't find anything out there that met what I was looking for and met what I knew these students really needed.
So, how did you take this philosophy and be able to apply it where it was available? Uh, or is that why you designed your particular coaching program this way?
I would say that's really why I designed it this way. I knew that this approach and these methods were so incredibly effective and that students needed more of it, more practice, more repetition. And that was kind of part of why I developed the workbooks, developed the program, and utilized them within the tutoring.
What was your feedback from mainstream?
Incredibly positive. I think others realized also that there was such a need for these kinds of materials and workbooks that didn't really exist out there. So I've received incredibly positive feedback. And of course, it's so rewarding to see what a difference it can make in these children's lives.
So let's talk a little bit about the tools that transform. Your workbooks, strategies for study success, and the Flags and Stars series. What makes them stand out?
Sure. Well, first off, they're all research based in terms of the methodologies behind them. They're also multisensory, meaning we integrate a lot of visual, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic tools within the context of the workbooks, and they specifically address unique skills. So, for example, the Strategies for Study Success workbook series is more study skills by nature. It's teaches students strategies for test taking, note taking, organization, summarizing, and then we also get into reading comprehension and writing. Then the Flags and Stars multisensory math program helps students develop those foundational math skills that so many kids lack. Basic skills like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, double digit multiplication, division, fractions, and so forth. And then there's also the Flags and Stars Orton Gillingham workbook series, which that is more specific to decoding and spelling skills.
So math, how far? I mean, is it depending upon the student? Is this like a graduation program? You go through the series, or I mean, or is it a program? Basically, say for ages K through 12.
I would say, as a general note, it's K through 12, but it's more about the level of the student. Meaning, we might have a fifth grader who's at a kindergarten or first grade level, and we need to start with where they're at and then move upwards from there. So, everything we do is really about customizing and individualizing the instruction based on the needs and the levels of each student.
So how does I might be butchering this a little bit, Orton Gillingham instruction help students in ways traditional methods don't. Uh, can you kind of explain what the excuse me, Orton Gillingham approach is?
Absolutely. The Orton Gillingham approach is a specific research based multisensory approach that helps students develop their decoding and encoding skills, which is essentially kind of the mechanics of reading and spelling. And so what we do within the confines of this program is we start out by teaching students the individual letters and their corresponding sounds, how to write them as well. Then eventually we move on to basic 2 and 3 letter words, and we teach them how to blend those sounds together to form words. Then we move into more complex word patterns, consonant digraphs, vowel digraphs, R-controlled patterns, multisyllabic word patterns. So it starts with the foundations of reading and spelling and then builds upwards from there.
Okay, so it does kind of go along with traditional methods then.
Well, I would say in the sense that it's a phonics based approach, that's sort of traditional by nature, but it's very multisensory, like I was saying. So it's not just following a workbook, but it's integrating tools like colored sand for forming letters, magnetic tiles, whiteboards, all within the confines of this structured and systematic program. So it's kind of a step above a traditional phonics program.
Okay. Can you explain what executive functioning really means to students and why it's such a game changer?
Sure. Executive functioning involves skills like planning, organization, time management, task initiation. Many students with ADHD tend to struggle with executive functioning skills, but there's no requirement for a diagnosis of that to struggle with executive functioning. And these are skills that can really affect so many other aspects of school within the classroom. I've seen so many brilliant students that start to really struggle come middle school and then high school because they don't have strong enough executive functioning skills to get them through the changing of classes, all of the workload demands that start to pile up, where executive functioning starts to play an even bigger role.
So this program can also equip a student for higher education.
Absolutely. Higher education involves a lot of executive functioning skills. So, if we can teach students concrete strategies to build their executive functioning skills when they're younger, it can absolutely help them with higher education.
Do you encourage your students to go on to higher education?
Absolutely. If they're capable of it and they have the desire to, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of value in it.
Do you find that parents are able to go along, well, not go along, but able to encourage their kids to go on to higher education?
I think it's very much of an individual case by case basis. I think many of them are, especially if they realize the value of it and they're able to encourage their children. Some of them lean more towards trade schools or other avenues, but I would say many of them are able to.
So, your program is actually used in schools across the country. What's been the most surprising feedback from educators or from parents?
Well, I think both educators and parents see the value in what's so unique about our materials and the workbooks and the multisensory approach. And I think in using it and seeing the effectiveness of it, how it's improving kids' reading, writing, math, study skills, has really empowered them to want to use this kind of approach more and more.
So, going back to the one-on-one approach, uh, how do you tailor your program to the needs of the particular needs of your students? How do you tailor that as well as integrate it into societal norms?
Sure. Well, typically we start with an initial evaluation so we can gauge exactly where the student is at in terms of their levels, any areas of academic weakness, so that we can really customize a one on one instructional plan for them. And then we really use all, again, research based techniques that are specifically targeted to the one skill or the set of skills that the student struggles with. It might just be reading, it might be reading, writing, and math. It could be a combination of skills, but it's all about really tailoring the instruction to each student's individual needs.
So, why do multisensory techniques work so well with students with learning disabilities?
There's been a lot of research behind this, and the result is that the integration of these multisensory tools, meaning visual, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic modality simultaneously, helps information to stay in their long term memory. So it really helps them to learn material and also to retain it for the long run.
Okay, is this part of the objective of your one-on-one uh, session?
Well, of course, we don't want students to just memorize material or learn it for a day or two. We really want them to learn it and retain it for the long run.
Huh. That's kind of interesting. I don't even know if I remember what Pythagorean's theorem is, rather than the words. So retention is. Do you find that retention is much more focused in children with learning disabilities?
Not necessarily. I think that there are some schools, some teachers that put more of an emphasis on learning material for the long run versus just memorizing materials or facts for a test. So I think it's more about the approach that is taken when working with students.
Uh, uh, can you share a story about a student who really blossomed under your program?
Absolutely. There's this one story of a boy that I actually worked with myself many, many years ago. At the time, he was in first grade and he had severe ADHD and dyslexia and was literally bouncing off the walls. And I worked with him for many years. I used the Orton Gillingham approach with him to build his reading skills. And then, fast forward many years later, not that long ago, his mom actually reached out to me and told me that not only did he make it through middle school and high school, but he went to college, graduate school, and is now working as an engineer. So it was just music to my ears and part of what just fuels me every day.
Wow. Hmm. That's a remarkable story. Whether that could be a success story for even a normal child, let alone one with disabilities.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you customize a program for a student who struggles in more than one area, like maybe reading and math?
Well, we pull from many different research based techniques depending on what's right for each student. And that kind of goes back to that initial evaluation that I mentioned earlier, where we start by assessing each student to really gauge where they're at academically and then put together the right combination of research based techniques tailored to the specific skills that that student is struggling with.
Okay. Are you seeing a rise in certain learning challenges post pandemic?
Great question. And the answer is yes. I think many kids missed out on foundational academic skills. And just like building a house, if you don't have those foundations, it's very challenging to excel academically as students move through school. So we're finding that we're doing a lot of it, taking a step back, rebuilding those foundations before we can get them to excel in the current work that they're doing at school.
Hmm. All right. Now, in your view, how well are schools supporting kids with learning disabilities today?
I think it depends on the school. I think some are doing a better job than others. I think some schools are bringing in professional development and really training teachers on research based effective approaches to helping students build their academic skills. And I think the more we do of that, the more professional development that's integrated, the better it is ultimately for the students.
Now, where do mainstream schools still fall short, and how can they do better?
I think that many of them are still not using what's considered evidence based, highly effective methodologies for students. And again, I think that's where a lot more professional development comes in. We've identified a lot of great methods and programs that really work well. Now we need to bring those into schools more and train the teachers on them.
Speaking of teachers in training, uh, is there how can I put this? Uh, do you find that the teachers that you attract to your particular program, do you find that they're more empathetic to the whole education system rather than just going along? I know this sounds bad, but going along to get a paycheck.
I think that when someone chooses to go into the field of special education, they're probably naturally a bit more empathetic because they're really working with kids who struggle all the time and all these different neurodiverse kids. But I think ultimately it's about the individual. Everyone has their own choice for why they go into a particular field and what drives them. But as a general note, I would say there probably is more empathy within special education.
Talking about the parents a little bit here. Uh, how do you find, do are you recommended to the parents? How do parents find out about your particular program?
So it's we are oftentimes parents are referred to us from their child's school. Sometimes evaluators will evaluate a child and then recommend them to us. A lot of word of mouth. Some parents find us online. So kind of a wide mix.
And do you find the parents that come to you are usually, shall we say, uh, you know, pulling their hair out, more or less trying to find, something uh, is really beneficial to their kids, or are these parents that come to you as a matter of uh, first choice?
I think that many parents have seen their child struggle. Their child is has weak academic skills, poor self-esteem, anxiety, and they're really trying to find a solution for their child to help ease some of these struggles.
And does that make it easier for you to uh, have parents actually more susceptible to your message and your ways of teaching?
I think so. I always try to be very genuine in my thoughts on the child, on how we can help the child, on success stories of students similar to the child. So I think ultimately parents are looking for a solution to help their child, and I try to really empathize with what they're going through and how we can really help them.
Uh, do you find of course my people when my age there was a certain stigma associated with uh, ADHD, dyslexia, and whatnot. Do you find that in today's society, uh, we have become more tolerable?
Absolutely. I think there's much less of a stigma now than there used to be. I think there's a lot more acceptance. And also, there are so many incredibly successful business leaders, CEOs, actors, you name it, who have a learning disability, ADHD, autism, and have been successful despite that. So, absolutely, I think the stigma is starting to go away and certainly much less prevalent.
And is that helpful in recruiting teachers and coaches?
Definitely. I just think that awareness has really changed things a lot.
Would you say that that has been due to an increase in education as far as what these particular conditions really are, rather than that kid's retarded, quote unquote.
Right. I think it's less just hearsay or language thrown around and more educated information that's been available and released about how successful these individuals can be with the right support through their educational journey.
Okay, so in your view, how well are schools supporting students with learning disabilities today?
I think some schools are doing a better job than others. I think, as a general note, they are doing a better job, but I still think we have a ways to go in terms of bringing in more of those evidence based approaches to help these kinds of students.
What role does private tutoring or coaching play in complementing or compensating for what's missing in schools?
Well, I think sometimes what a child needs is not always available within their school. For example, if a child has dyslexia and really needs reading tutoring using the Orton Gillingham method, there might not be someone who's Orton Gillingham trained who can give them that support within their school setting. And that's where outside tutoring and outside support can really make such a world of difference.
And once again, going back to the one-on-one, uh, how long does a session usually last, and do you cover more than one subject during a session?
That is completely individualized to the needs of each student. We have some kids that we see as little as 1 hour once a week, and then we have others that we see 2 hours a day every day. Same thing is true for the content. If a child is just struggling with reading, then we would just focus on reading. But if they're struggling with multiple skills, then we would address all of those skills when we work with them.
Now, there's been a lot of strides made in technology. As we know, now, this is your personal computer. You can do almost anything you want to do with it. Uh, how has those leaps in technology helped to support your program?
Well, I think that the availability of all of this assistive technology and apps has really served as great tools for students who have learning and attentional challenges. For example, spell check has been great for students who might have dyslexia or dysgraphia and really struggle with spelling. Being able to set alarms on your phone to remind you of an appointment coming up helps individuals with ADHD who have very poor time management skills. So there's so many of these tools available now, and that there's so many more beyond that that I think have really added a lot of value and helped those who are neurodivergent.
And what about from the teacher's side? Have you found, with the strides made in AI and other technologies, how have you been able to incorporate that into your different teaching methods?
Yeah, I think AI actually can be a very positive, play a very positive role in education as long as it's used the right way. I think it can really allow teachers to individualize instruction based on the needs of each student. For example, if one student is only able to write a sentence and another one's able to write an essay, AI can help the teacher to individualize the instruction to meet all of the students' needs. Of course, we don't want AI to take away the teacher's role or to take over kids learning how to read, write, and do basic math skills. So that's just something that we have to continue to be aware of as it evolves.
Now, this is something that we also have uh, pro- a lot of difficulty in, when we see our kids today. I use the example of my nephew, graduated high school, but doesn't know how to read. I had to teach him how to read, so just like I had to teach my great grandfather how to read. And to me, this was a failure of the public school system. Do you find that your students are much more successful once they get the tools than maybe conventional students?
Absolutely. I think that those tools can do wonders for both neurodivergent and neurotypical students. I think especially if they're not getting what they need in school, having outside support via one on one tutoring, not within the classroom, can absolutely help them to be very successful.
Considering today's educational climate, uh, do you think that it may be a growing trend for public education to become much more centered, like you are, maybe not one on one, but smaller individual classes where the students are not all standardized, but are really helped according to their needs? Do you think that's a failure of public schools?
I would love to see that happen. I think it's very challenging with the volume of kids that we have in public schools and the average class size. I think it's a challenge for teachers to really individualize the instruction, and hopefully technology will help aid in that process because it does make a big difference for students.
Do you, that's do you find that students are much more susceptible to learn when you use multi uh, diverse uh, methods to teach? And I mean, it's not like when we were reading, writing, and arithmetic. You have to kind of also use I guess in today's terms, it would be common sense technology.
Yeah, I think that a lot has evolved. I think there are many more resources and tools available now that did not used to be available. So I think it's about identifying the right ones that are best for each student and really integrating them in the best we can.
Okay. Uh, what keeps you motivated in a space that's constantly evolving and often misunderstood and underfunded?
I think it's really all of the success stories that I hear from parents, the kids that I see thrive after struggling so much. It's if it's done the right way, it's actually a very rewarding field to see these positive changes that we can really encounter with students.
And what advice would you give parents of children that are struggling but haven't yet been diagnosed?
My advice would be don't let your child fall behind. There are so many great resources available for children once they receive a diagnosis. So I always tell parents, if you find that your child is struggling in school, start by speaking to their teacher, set up a meeting, see if the teacher's noticing the same struggles at school. And if so, it really may make sense to have an evaluation done. It can be free of charge within their public school, and then really they will have access for their child to all of these wonderful resources that can really help them.
You know, it does seem, going back to the diagnosis, it does seem, when you look at around today, we have found more modern ways, I guess, to get to a diagnosis, such as dyslexia, ADHD, or even some in the medical field. Uh, when we come to diagnosis, do you find that uh, it is more uh, that it's easier to get a parent to seek a diagnosis, or do you find a lot of times that by the time these parents come to you, sometimes they've waited too long?
I don't believe that you've ever waited too long. I think that it's never too late to get a diagnosis and to get the right support for a child. Sometimes, when it comes to the remediation and the support, we have to take a step backwards and build early foundations when we start working with the child later. But it's never too late. It's always, there's so much value in getting that diagnosis and getting the support for the child.
Do some kids slip through the cracks, by being labeled, bad students or bad kids?
Well, I think there's kids that fall through the cracks for a variety of reasons. I think that hopefully there'll be less and less of that with time, but I think there still are kids that do fall through the cracks for many different reasons.
Uh, do you think that once again, this also, I think, depends upon our cultures. Some cultures have different um, um beliefs as far as treating kids with learning disabilities. Do you find that now that it has become almost universal, where everyone is thinking more about the benefits to their children than it is their stigma within the neighborhood?
I don't think it's a universal statement that everyone sees the value of it. I think there are some people that still think there's a stigma, but I think there's much less of those people out there and more people that are accepting, willing to get the diagnosis, and really willing to seek the support.
Have you seen those numbers increase since you've been advocating your program?
Absolutely. Much less of a stigma and much more acceptance.
Okay. So, what's next for you and EBL coaching in the coming years?
Well, we're continuing to grow and evolve. We are now working with students, like I said earlier, worldwide and throughout the United States and in different countries where they may not have access to this kind of specialized one on one tutoring. So we're hoping to continue to grow that and just help more and more children succeed.
Okay. And what would be your final thought to our audience, and then you can. Are there have you authored any books, or are there any special? Uh, I guess I want to say workbooks or things that you have authored yourself or that you recommend.
Yeah, well, I am the author of those three workbook series that we spoke about earlier: Strategies for Study Success, the Flags and Stars Math Program, and the Flags and Stars Orton Gillingham Reading Program. And they're all available on our website, eblcoaching.com, along with lots of other resources for parents, many different articles that I've written, different podcasts that I've been on. So there's just lots of resources for parents to read and listen to and just learn about how they can best help their child.
And how long did it take you to develop this series?
Oh, I've over many years, probably over the course of 10 to 15 years. It was a very long, evolving process.
Ah, okay. And uh, as I was saying, you did mention your website.
Yes, eblcoaching.com. E like Edward, B like boy, L like Larry, coaching.com.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I'm hoping that there will be others that are listening and will also be in touch with you. I think you have a very unique uh, method of teaching, and I would actually encourage parents of children with learning disabilities to go to your website. Now, uh, once again, can you give us the name of those series, and are they only available to people that take your course, or can parents have access to these?
They're available to anyone. They're available for sale on our website as well as on Amazon. And the names of the three series again are Strategies for Study Success, the Flags and Stars Math Program, and the Flags and Stars Orton Gillingham Program.
Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to keep up with your program, and I hope you much success.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. You have a great evening.
You too.
Uh, so that was Dr. Levy, and you can, as she said, you can purchase her books from the website and from many different places. It is very refreshing to see that someone is actually taking the time to try to give uh, all children an equal opportunity, not only for education, but to thrive in life. So thank you so much, Dr. Levy, and I look forward to perhaps having you back before the end of the year, talking about your different strides and how you've helped children and parents navigate life. So thank you again.
That sounds
And
great. And thank you.
and I wish to thank everyone that's listening this morning. We are a little early, but I thought this was a very important message for us to give out, and uh, we thank Dr. Levy for making time for us. So have a great rest of your Saturday, and we look forward to talking to you again right here on We the People. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Dr. Levy, you can stream this to your social media.
That would be great. I was going to ask, is there a link you